2,000 years ago, something happened that changed history forever. On a hill in Galilee, a crowd gathered, anxious and with a strange sense of expectation in the air. They didn't know they were about to hear the most important speech of all time. Suddenly, a man appeared. Until that moment, he was known only as a carpenter's son, but after that day, the entire world would know him as the Son of God on earth. That day, Jesus transformed the history of humanity with his words. He delivered the most revolutionary speech ever given, challenging the beliefs of his time and all future times. With his words, Jesus redefined success and happiness. Do you think it has no relevance after almost 2,000 years? You are mistaken. Today, we remain fascinated by the power of these words, which have transformed human understanding of life and purpose. In a single teaching, Jesus revealed the way to live close to God. Get ready. These words will change your life. Then Jesus broke the silence with his first words. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. With these words, Jesus began his revolution in the world. But this promise challenges everything we think we know about success and happiness. What does it mean to be poor in spirit? It is not about material poverty, but about humility and recognizing our spiritual need. It's admitting that we don't have all the answers and that we need God. This teaching is the basis of a life full of purpose and peace. Because when we recognize our need for God, we open our hearts to the true blessing of the kingdom of heaven. Then, Jesus left a moment of silence for the people to reflect on his words and continued by saying, Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. In a world that urges us to be happy all the time, Jesus validates pain. Have you ever cried in silence, feeling like no one understands your suffering? Jesus promises comfort. He tells us that it is normal to cry, that grief is a part of life, and that in the midst of pain, God is with you, offering comfort and peace. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Meekness is not weakness, but strength under control. In a world that celebrates the aggressive, Jesus calls us to be meek. Have you ever chosen the path of peace over confrontation? This is true strength. Being meek is having the power to fight back, but choosing not to. It is responding with love, even when we are treated unfairly. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be satisfied. This is not a casual desire, but a deep longing. Have you ever felt frustrated by the injustices of the world? This frustration can be a powerful force for change. Jesus calls us to not just desire justice, but to actively work for it. And he promises that those who seek justice will be satisfied. Blessed are the merciful, for they will obtain mercy. In a world that often cries out for revenge, Jesus invites us to show mercy. Have you ever forgiven when you had every right to hold a grudge? This is the essence of mercy, an act of compassion, a choice of love over hate. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Jesus calls us to integrity, to be the same person in public and in private. Purity of heart goes beyond external appearances. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. In a world full of conflicts, being a peacemaker is an act of courage. Have you ever strived to bring peace in the midst of discord? This is the work of a true child of God. Peacemakers build bridges, unite hearts, and reflect divine love. Blessed are they who suffer persecution for the sake of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Following the path of righteousness often brings persecution. Have you ever felt marginalized for standing up for what is right? Jesus says you are not alone. Those who suffer for righteousness will find their reward in the kingdom of heaven. Imagine now that Jesus, after pronouncing the Beatitudes, looks directly into your eyes and says, You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt loses its flavor, what will it be salted with? Cast out and trampled underfoot by men. What does Jesus mean by this? Salt, at that time, preserved food and gave flavor. Likewise, you are called to preserve what is good in the world and to give meaning to life. But what happens if the salt loses its flavor? Jesus warns that without his essence, he loses his purpose. Then, Jesus continues with an even more powerful image. You are the light of the world. A city built on a mountain cannot be hidden, nor can one light a light and put it under a bushel, but on a lampstand and shine to everyone in the house. Being the light of the world is a call to be visible, to be a guide. The light does not hide. It is placed in a high place so that everyone can see it and be guided by it. Jesus challenges you to let your light shine. Being the light of the world is a great responsibility. Don't hide your gifts, your love, your faith. Jesus ends this teaching with a powerful call. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father who is in heaven. It is not about seeking personal glory, but about living in such a way that your actions inspire others to seek God. The mission is clear and challenging, but it is also an invitation to live with a greater purpose, to positively impact the lives of those around you. After speaking about the salt of the earth and the light of the world, Jesus continues with a crucial teaching about the law and the prophets. Firmly and clearly he says, "Do not think that I came to abolish the law or the prophets. I came not to abolish, but to fulfill." With these words, Jesus makes it clear that his mission is not to destroy the ancient law, but to give it its true meaning. The law and prophets represent divine wisdom and guidance that have been passed down through generations. He adds, "For truly I say to you, until heaven and earth pass away, not one jot or one tittle will pass from the law, until all is accomplished." This statement emphasizes the eternity and perfection of divine law. Every little part of the law has a purpose and is destined to be fulfilled. Have you ever felt overwhelmed by rules and expectations? Jesus reminds us that each commandment has a deep meaning and that, in fulfilling it, we find our true freedom. Jesus continues, "So whoever breaks one of the least of these commandments and teaches men so, he will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever does and teaches them will be called great in the kingdom of heaven." Here, Jesus calls us to live and teach the truth with integrity. Have you ever felt the tension between what you know is right and what is easy? Jesus challenges us not to compromise our values, to live authentically, and to teach others by example. Finally, Jesus warns, "For I say to you, unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and Pharisees, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven." This is a surprising statement, as the scribes and Pharisees were seen as the strictest observers of the law. What does it mean to have greater justice? Jesus is not just referring to following external rules, but to an internal transformation, a righteousness that comes from the heart. Imagine Jesus with the crowd listening intently as he addresses one of the most human and universal themes, anger. With a deep look and a voice full of authority, he says, "You have heard that it was said to those of old, 'You shall not kill,' and whoever kills will be subject to judgment. But I say to you that whoever is angry with his brother, he will be a defendant in judgment. And whoever says to his brother, 'Raca,' will be a defendant before the Sanhedrin. And whoever calls him fool will be a defendant in the fire of hell." These words are surprising and revealing. Jesus is not only concerned with our outward actions, but also with our emotions and words. Have you ever found yourself overcome with anger, letting resentment consume your heart? Jesus tells us that even anger and harsh words can be destructive. He invites us to look inside ourselves and confront those emotions that can lead us down dark paths. Jesus continues, "Therefore, if you are bringing your gift to the altar and there remember that your brother has something against you, leave your gift there before the altar, and go first and be reconciled with your brother. Then come and present your offer." That is a radical message. Jesus places reconciliation above religious ritual. Thank you for watching. If this video touched your heart, consider sharing it with someone who could also benefit from this message. Your simple action can make a difference in someone else's life. And don't forget to check out the next video that will appear on the screen. It's filled with more inspiration and teachings. See you there.